Welcome back, travelers, to your referral roadmap. This podcast is dedicated to helping you unleash your personal and business revenue potential by cultivating referral relationships. In this 10-part series, we are giving you the tools to break you free from the productivity traps that keep you overwhelmed, overworked, and underfulfilled. If you've ever felt like no matter how hard you work, you're just spinning your wheels, stuck in that cycle of busyness instead of real progress, this series is for you. This isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters. So if you're ready to trade that burnout for real momentum, let's dive in. Today, we're talking about the art of saying no, Athena, reclaiming your time without guilt. What does that look like? Well, we'll dive into it today, but the art of saying no, it involves setting those clear boundaries, confidently declining requests that don't align with your priorities, like we talked about last episode. So humble little brag there. If you have not listened to that one, go back. And then allowing you to focus on what truly matters without feeling guilty. So today, I think Athena has a story on an investor. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I have a couple actually.
Oh, okay.
But I want to talk about. I want to give a story of somebody excessively prominent that most people have heard of. And so I want to talk about renowned investor Warren Buffett. Most people do know he's one of the richest people in the world. I do like a little side note that he didn't become rich until after 50. So those of you who are listening right now, if you're a little bit on the older side, it's never too late. If you're on the younger side, take this advice so you don't have to wait till you're late, right? I'm just saying,
There you go.
But so Warren Buffett attributes most of his success to his ability to say no. He emphasizes that truly successful people prioritize their time, commitments, and often turn down attractive opportunities, that don't align with their core goals. Buffett's disciplined approach to focusing only on what really matters is honestly what he says is the cornerstone of his sustained success. So I like to just say this because you guys, let's take it from somebody who is living it, who is successful, is using a lot of his money for philanthropic, which I love. I love wealthy people giving back. But I'm like, okay, if he can do it, I can do it. And I always like to learn, Jada, what are the power people doing? Because I need to know what they're doing so I can emulate, rip off, and duplicate, as Darren Hardy said, right? One of the other things, if you guys are listening, first of all, thank you so much for being here. I understand having a series on productivity is like, we don't want to hear it. It's just like, oh, you're going to talk about time blocking and blah, blah. No, this can absolutely change your trajectory of your life, personally and professionally. But I do want to have two other stories I really wanted to share. So one of the things when I took Darren Hardy's business masterclass, and I know I've taken it, I don't know, 6 or 7 times, but one of the stories he talks about is Tony Robbins, where and this is a story Darren knew. Like, he knew the person trying to get Tony Robbins to speak. And it was this very successful business owner. And he was like, my team wants Tony Robbins to come. And so he reached out to Tony Robbins. And the business owner happened to be an acquaintance with Darren Hardy. Okay. So this business owner is reaching out to Tony Robbins and saying, hey, come and speak. His office says, no. He reaches out again, kind of like, well, does he not know who I am? Or you know what I'm saying? No. So he reaches out again. And every time he's upping the ante, right? Financially and making for the case, if you will, of why Tony Robbins should say yes. And he doesn't. What he does is he finally has his team send back and says, it's not personal, has nothing to do with you, and there's not an amount of money that you can offer. The only reason I'm saying no is because it doesn't align with my priorities currently. Now that is focus. That's focus. So these are people who are highly successful, and they are using prioritization and the power of saying no in order for them to hit their objectives. and their objectives are pretty amazing. But so I do want to take it down though and tell you a story about one of my coaching clients. And by the way, I could repeat this story multiple times because it happens often, but this one just recently happened, so it's really fresh on my mind. So a coaching client of mine, she has lots of energy and very creative person. I adore her. It's really fun working with her. So she came in my office, and I always ask people like, what are your victories? And then what could you not wait to talk to me about? That's how we always start. So it's either good, bad, whichever way we need to go. And then we go into their homework. So she was so excited, Jada, so proud. And she was like, oh, I have this going on, and I have this going on, and I have this going on, and this new opportunity, and this, and this, and this. And she was like she was at the Olympics of productivity, so excited to tell me. And I had to bust her bubble. I mean, I popped her excitement because I said, hey, I'm so excited about all these opportunities, but let's stop for a second and let's focus on what are your 3 main objectives for your business in the next 90 days. You and I know it because we do EOS as her big rocks, right? So I was like, what are your 3 priorities? What are your big rocks? What are the things you have to do in the next 90 days in order to hit your goals? And as we identified what those really were and what the big high level, the big rock, what was going to generate revenue, what was going to get her closer to her year goal, and we identified those things. Then we identified what were the activities that needed to happen in the next 90 days to achieve those big objectives. A theory you and I are very familiar with EOS, which, by the way, EOS is entrepreneurial operating system, which is a coaching system that we have adopted. So I shared this with her. We went through this exercise, and then we took that whole list of all of these fun projects she was excited about. And I said, now, where do these fit in here? And very much like Steve Jobs, 70% of what was on her excitement list had to be eliminated. Now, once we went through why, and once we realized in the session that her creative spirit, her need to want to be liked, and her desire to try new things, which is extremely entrepreneurial, right? And creative. Nothing wrong with that. But we have to just, we have to streamline sometimes. Once she really understood it, then she was like, oh. Then we did the exercise where I said, okay, if we allowed you to do all these things, what would it cost you? What is that going to cost you? And then we looked at it was going to cost her achieving her big goals. It was going to slow her down from achieving the big year goal. It was going to cost her time, energy, and then I could see it was going to spiral her, Jada, into feeling shame and disappointment and being overwhelmed. And there goes her emotional psyche.
Yep.
So something that was so exciting was really dangerous. And so I wanted to tell that story because that story I could repeat with almost every single one of my clients. I can, there are multiple reasons we choose to do more than we should. And so we have to come back and start asking ourselves, what do we need to be saying no to? What do we need to be saying no to? And we don't know, she didn't know to say no to those things because she didn't know what her priorities were, right? And I know we talked about that last episode, but so we empowered her, and I told her one of the, like, no was her new word. And she's a super sweet person. So she's like, how am I going to tell these people no without being rude? Right. And so I said, here's what you say. And so listeners, here you go. Literally, and Jada, you and I have said this. So you guys, what we preach, we do. So just let you know. Or we'll tell you if we're preaching it, we don't do it. We'll be honest with you that we need to work on that. True story. But here's what you say. Just like Tony Robbins. Hey, gosh, that sounds like a wonderful opportunity. That is so exciting. I'm so happy for you guys. But right now, I'm at my bandwidth. These are my priorities have already got me committed. So I'm not going to be able to do that right now. But, in the future, my priorities may change, and that could be a good fit. And at that point, I could maybe reach back out. You want to be excited for the people. You want to tell them that you're honored, but you just can't say yes, because you have to have boundaries for your priorities. And we talk about that in our priority webinar that we do, priorities with boundaries, right?
Definitely.
And so I just wanted to share that story. I hope it resonates with you guys. I will give you an update. She is very good at executing on what we talk about. So she's executing on that. She's having bigger impact. But more importantly, she has peace. She has peace. Peace is hard to come by. So her life is not chaos. It has direction, intention. So that is powerful. But I'm done with my story. I'll get off my soapbox. Tell me, Jada, is there any science to this?
There is. There's always science.
Yay! We're nerds.
We're nerds. Sorry. So yes, the first thing I wanted to pull from was Psychology Today, and they say that setting clear boundaries and saying no when necessary can lead to improved mental health, stability, and increased self-esteem. By prioritizing your own needs and well-being, you create space for self-care and personal growth, and this practice helps build that self-respect and confidence that you need to succeed in business as well. So thought that was pretty powerful. And then a blog on a head app, which I'll make sure all of these three things I'm going to mention are linked in the show notes. But there's a blog on a head app, and it mentions that maintaining clear personal boundaries is associated with a 60% increase in relationship satisfaction. By clearly communicating your limits, you foster trust and respect in your relationships, leading to more fulfilling and balanced interactions. And Athena, don't we all need that 60% increase?
Yeah. Boundaries are hard, huh? I mean,
they are.
But they're so essential.
They are.
They're essential in business and in life.
And the last one, it is an article on AP News, which again, I'll make sure is linked, but it says that consistently saying yes to all requests can lead to overcommitment, resulting in stress and burnout. Learning to say no protects your mental and physical health by preventing exhaustion and allowing you to focus on tasks that align with your priorities.
There you go.
That was all of the stats I had today. So Athena, what's next for us today?
Well, I'm going to give you guys some rubber meets the road. What do we do here? How do we take this? But I do want to say, Jada, don't you find it really interesting that as long as we've been doing these podcasts, we're on series 5 now, Psychology Today, even though this is a business podcast, Psychology Today is on the money. You guys, our psyche does infect business. Right? So I find it very interesting. You often pull things from Psychology Today. So I love that. All right. So rubber meets the road. What do we do? What do we do? Okay. First of all, you have to stop and assess the request. That is a habit you must create for yourself. Before responding to a new task or a project, evaluate if it has alignment with your current priorities and your workload. Even consider asking yourself more detail to fully understand the commitment required. This way, it ensures you make a totally informed decision. I will just tell you, Jada is the master. If you want to know how to do this, you might want to email her. She is the master at when I ask her to do something, she'll assess it, decide if she has the bandwidth, if it relates, and then she'll communicate back like, I could do this, but it's not going to happen till here. She's excellent at assessing and then deciding. That's good boundaries. That's good boundaries. So assessing the request. So really thinking about it. You guys, we don't have to say yes to everything. We just don't. And I want you guys to realize sometimes if somebody's giving us a request and it sounds wonderful and you want to do it, but you just can't right then, know that that opportunity most likely at some time will come back. Okay, really know how to assess. Is this a once in a lifetime opportunity that I need to make time for, or will this really have an opportunity to come back? So in your assessment, really think about that as well. Communicate your priorities. Now, what do I mean by that? First of all, I want you to communicate them to yourself. Okay. And what I mean by that is our last podcast, we talked about prioritization. I want you to know what your priorities are. I want you to have them listed. I want you to understand them so that if somebody is asking you to do something else, you can fully engaged with knowledge say, I don't have the capacity for that. I don't have the bandwidth for that. I've got these other projects going on and I'm fully committed. And you can say it with authority and conviction. So you don't have shame, right? We don't want to have shame. And so it gives you that. And then also, it should empower you. I hope it empowers you. So, and communicate that with your leadership, with yourself, with your team. Tell people, hey, you guys, these are my priorities. This is what I'm going to focus myself. Jada knows what my priorities are. So she helps me. There are emails of people may ask me to do things that I'm sure she's saying no for me that I don't even know because she already knows she doesn't have the time, right? Or now's not the time.
Mm-hmm.
So communicate your priorities to those around you to help you. And then in saying no, be direct and honest. Okay, so we're learning how do we say no? Be direct and honest. When declining a request, be straightforward. Tell them, I already told you, right? I'd love to do this. I'm excited for you. I could help you in other ways if I can, but because of these things, I simply can't do it right now. Right? So in saying no, just be honest. Be honest. Now, I will say, if you're like, that's the dumbest idea ever, don't do that. Don't ever, tell somebody I'm saying no because I think this is not a good idea. Don't do that. Don't ever diminish somebody else's excitement. But just be direct and honest. I can't do that right now. It doesn't fit. I don't have the capacity. I'm overcommitted. Jada, we see this often when people want to have lunch with me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't have a lot of time. I put a lot of work into a small amount of time every day. And so to get a lunch is a lot of minutes, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're direct and honest with people. I tell a lot of people, I just don't do lunches very often. Mm-hmm. They take up a lot of time. That's a lot of productive time. Can we do a coffee or can we just do a Zoom? And I'm just honest about it. And I've never gotten any pushback. People respect it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing you do when you're saying no is offer alternative solutions. So if possible, suggest other ways to help to accommodate them that doesn't overextend yourself. Okay. So it could be proposing a different deadline, getting them connected with somebody else. It could be connecting them to a different business. So offer other solutions. Interesting enough, I just had this yesterday. Somebody had a conversation with me and they wanted me to advertise in a magazine. And that is not part of my business. It's not part of my business. We don't advertise. And so in the home building world. And so I let her know just upfront, direct and honest, that is not something my business does. I appreciate you reaching out to me. I let her know no, right? And then I offered different alternatives. I said, but you might want to talk to this person and this person and this person because they could be a good fit. So you can apply this not only in eliminating your time, but if somebody is soliciting you and it's not a good fit. So the same theory works here. Right. Just thought I would share that because I just did this yesterday. And then you could also, I'm going to say this, practice assertiveness. Now, I don't mean be rude, people. That's not what I'm talking about. What I mean is being confident. When I say assertive, I mean being confident. Know your boundaries and be confident in them. Be kind and always speak in a tone that is kind. But know that you are allowed to have boundaries. You're allowed to have boundaries. It is your life. It is your time. You're allowed to do that. You can determine, you can say no. So, and the other, right? Know your boundaries. Know what your boundaries are. Know your priorities. Know your boundaries so you can lean on those when you say no to have the confidence to say no, right? Um, if you don't have clear boundaries, you may say yes to something that doesn't fit. Okay, so identifying those boundaries. And then the last thing, you guys, I want you to reflect on your capacity regularly. We talked about this in the last podcast as well. But sometimes we'll do a great job and get ourselves all aligned and we're doing really well, but then stuff happens, right? Old habits happen or new projects come in and we get off kilter. We haven't said no enough. Check yourself, maybe I would say every 90 days, re-look at your priorities, your boundaries. Are you saying no enough? How is your capacity? Are you using yourself to your full capacity? Are you doing all the smart things? Reevaluate that every 90 days. It'll help you really stay in tune with yourself and help consistently pushing you forward. Success in life is not a leapfrog thing. Success in life is one step at a time, one day at a time. And so in order for us to know what the next step needs to be, we've got to be prioritizing and we've got to be able to say no, and we've got to take control and be intentional about that staircase. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, girl, I am so far from that, no shame. We started with no shame. I just want you to take, and even if right now, the only thing you do is start looking at your life and pick one or two things that you can start saying no to. Look at your life. What is something that you're saying yes to that's not serving your business, not serving you? And be brave enough to have the boundaries to go and say, you know what? I need to say no to this because it doesn't align with my current priorities as much as I love it. Okay? Be bold enough to do that. And by the way, some of those no's may not be external. People are really going to throw tomatoes at me at this. Some of those no's may be turn off your TV. It may be reduce your TikTok time. It may be, you get it, right?
Maybe
There
read
are
an
areas.
educational book.
Pardon me?
I said it maybe read an educational book instead of like a for fun book every, so
Once in
often.
a while.
Yeah.
But I say this to say, I'm not telling you to be robotic. I'm not telling you not to have fun. I would rather you plan your fun so that you do something that's highly impactful, right? If you are doing a lot of numbing with TV or TikTok or whatever it is, it means you're not. There's a void there. So be cognitive of that. But you are wasting minutes. So think through if there's something in your life that you're like, you know what, if I reduce that, I could actually implement this. So I know that sucks and no one likes me. You're going to all throw tomatoes and have bad things to say, but it's true. It is true. And Truly successful people like Warren Buffett would tell you to say no to those things. I know Darren Hardy would tell you to say no to those things too. So, all right, Jada, I'll get off my soapbox.
That's okay. I'm going to get on mine.
Okay, good.
No, I was just going to share something practical that I really love to do is, I mean, you kind of touched on it just a little bit of like planning your fun. Something that really helps me is the last week in every month, I'll go through the following month and I call it my month ahead planning time. And I'll go look through. So like right now, I would go to, well, I guess we're in the middle of the month, but you know what I mean? Once we get to the end of the month, I'll look ahead at next month and all of my priorities, I make sure that they're allocated on my calendar. There's no overlap there. So I actually have, the right amount of dedicated time. And then I will add my projects that we're working on. I'll add time for those. And then I'll also add some flex time of, I'm going to work on marketing from this time to this time, 3 days a week or whatever that looks like for me or for you. And I will, so then as you know, Athena, you mentioned this earlier, but as you reach out about new projects, I can look and say, okay, does that fit in this month? Or do I need to ask Athena whether one of my things that are currently on my list, does that need to move and replace it? Or can this be extended to next month? And so that just helps me a lot with prioritization as far as like work goes and putting those fun things on my calendar too. Because if I look ahead at my calendar and I have something planned for every single Saturday and every single Sunday of the month, I know I'm going to be burnt out by the end of the month. I'm going to be exhausted and I'm not going to be able to fully perform at work. I'm not going to be able to fully show up as a wife and a mother. And so just really looking at that from like a holistic, like what does this month look like view really helps me. So I don't know if that will help any of our listeners, but that is something that I love to do. So now I'm going to get off that soapbox and tell you guys
That's
where
a
to go
good one.
next.
That is good. And hey, when you do that,
Yeah.
you plan fun, don't you? See, this is the thing. I think people think being productive means it's not fun.
Yeah.
No, if you get serious about planning your fun, and I'm not saying you can't do anything spontaneous, but if you're planning time, your brain says if you say no to other things so that you can plan to have fun, your brain gets excited, looks forward to it, knows it's going to get reprieve, and hopefully you don't feel shame. So when you know you get to go do something fun and maybe it's during the week, you are a serious worker. Does it reduce your feeling of shame and anxiety because you're doing something fun since it was planned?
Yes, it does, especially if it's during the week. So like, for example, I like to go to the chiropractor. That is a like what is that called?
Self-care.
Self-care. That's self-care for me.
That's
I go to the
body
chiropractor
care.
every other
Yeah.
week. But my chiropractor that I really love is a 30-minute drive away. So I have to block out that time if I'm going to be gone, say an hour and a half out of my work day. And there's a coffee shop right next to it. And that's also self-care. Sometimes I'll work from that coffee shop for a little bit, or I'll grab a coffee to go and come back home to continue working. And so it helps me eliminate that shame feeling of knowing, hey, this is already on my calendar. I've already blocked my other priorities. So it's not like things aren't getting done because I'm doing that fun thing, because I have everything blocked, if that makes sense.
I really hope this helps the listeners. I hope you guys see that productivity can still be about rejuvenating life and not about restricting life. But
Yep.
Okay, Jada, where do we go from now? What are we going to talk about next time?
Well, next time we're going to talk about taking control of your schedule. So make sure to like and subscribe so you can join us next week as we really dive into that. I know we kind of touched on that topic today, but we're really going to dive deeper next week. So make sure to like and subscribe so you can join us next week. And additionally, wanted to mention that you can join our Success Revolution. It is our weekly blog fueled by relationships, referral, and revenue. You can get those growth strategies straight to your inbox. So we'll make sure that that link is in there. And then Athena did mention our productivity webinar. So I will link some information about that, how you can get that. But if you have any other questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. But we cannot wait to see you next week. So we will see you then. Bye, y'all.
Happy productivity.
Yes.